do everything to prevent that risk from happening. That means that as politicians, as governments in Europe, we don't have time to lose, because it's a race against the time. We know that we all have our responsibilities. In Germany, as the biggest industrial user of energy in Europe, we have the responsibility to decarbonize our industries, to decarbonize our heating. We're in the middle of doing that. And of course, for Norway, as the biggest producer of natural gas and oil in Europe, there's also this responsibility. We also know from the IEA report that to stay within the limits of 2 degrees or better 1.5 degrees of global heating, that we cannot afford to explore any new gas or oil fields that are unabated. So we should both together meet the responsibilities that we have, and I think that's what this partnership is about. And I'm going to talk a little bit more on what we in Germany are trying to aim at. So, as I said, we have a large industry. We have been a country importing and being dependent on import of energy. We've had lignite also. For climate reasons, we're phasing out lignite. And since the Russian attack on Ukraine, we have run out of the cheap gas. So we are very thankful that we've had a partner on our side with Norway that could jump in and provide us, and is now by far the biggest provider of natural gas, and has helped us to keep the industry alive. So otherwise that transformation would have been too quick and it would not have survived our industry. So I think that's also a very big part of our partnership, that we are both reliable partners and we know that we help each other when we are in trouble. So what we are doing is that we will first of all do as much energy efficiency as we can. We see that we have, for instance, lowered the energy needs due to the crisis, and we have seen the energy demand not rising dramatically again up to where we were before. So we've had energy efficiency gains through the crisis, and we have kept a lot of this through the investments that were triggered by the high prices. We're electrifying as much as we can, but some of the processes that cannot be electrified, we need hydrogen. And that's the part where a lot of our industries need hydrogen. We figure that it will be a need of roughly 100 terawatt hours of hydrogen, maybe 130, somewhere in between, by 2030. And that will rise steeply after 2030. So up to a range of maybe up to 500 terawatt hours. So that's a huge demand for hydrogen. And we're doing a lot of things on how to trigger that market, or to have that market starting. It's not a market yet. I mean, we don't have off-takers, we don't have suppliers, we don't have infrastructure. It's a whole new market we're trying to create. And so we started in Germany by on all the sides. At the supply side, we are doing electrolyzers. We've just given out funding for electrolyzers in Germany, but we know that we cannot reach by far the needs on our domestic production, because we just don't have enough electricity, green electricity production in Germany. We are also dealing with the offtake side. We're giving, for instance, carbon contracts for difference to the industry, meaning that we are paying the industry for their decarbonization efforts. We're talking about 2-digit billion euros rounds of auctions where we pay the industries and they can bid and they say, okay, I need this much money to decarbonize my processes, either by electrification or by switching to hydrogen. And then in the middle, of course, we also need the infrastructure, and that's also a big part of our partnership. We have started in Germany to not only to have a regulatory framework for the building of pipelines, but also a guarantee framework. So we will have, by 2032, roughly 10,000, a little bit less, kilometers of hydrogen pipeline network. And that works because we are, as a state, guaranteeing for most of the investments that are being made by the private companies. So there is a state backing for the investments of that infrastructure, so that we are very confident that these investments in these 10,000 kilometers of infrastructure will go. So that's the broad picture you've asked for, what we are doing, also particular with respect to hydrogen.
Thank you very much for outlining these topics and these needs in the future, and also what has been done. So now I would like to ask the State Secretary Astrid Bergmål of the Ministry of Energy to take the Norwegian position. We talked about what Norway needs, so the natural question would be what Norway can offer.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and for inviting us here today, and also thank you for coming all the way from Germany to be a part of Arendalsuka and these talks. As we know, and as you explained as well, Norway and Germany share a long-standing and vital relationship. Germany is Norway's largest trading partner and our very close ally. And energy, I believe, is at the core of our relationship. Norway is the largest producer and the only net exporter of oil and gas in Europe, with a high level of production that contributes significantly to Europe's and Germany's energy security, both in the short and in the long term. And Germany is Europe's largest oil and gas market, and Norway is Germany's most important source of oil and gas, as you also explained. Also, we have the NordLink interconnector. That is an important part of the energy cooperation between our two countries. And efficient power exchange and trade enables more efficient use of our resources and better utilization of energy systems. This benefits both our countries as well as the European electricity market. And our partnership has never been more critical than it is today. We all agree that we must accelerate the transition to renewable energy sources and low carbon solutions. And Germany's ambitious energy transitions efforts are inspiring. And together we aim to achieve our common goals of green industrialization and reduced emissions. Our countries have established a strategic partnership focused on industry and energy, aiming to achieve share climate goals, create new green industries and jobs, and strengthen energy supply security. I'd like to highlight some of the areas of our partnership, but first I would just like to mention that this partnership includes altogether 7 fields of cooperation: climate policy, hydrogen, offshore wind, CCS, green shipping, raw and processed materials and batteries, and microelectronics. I've been talking so much today that it's just like, and switching to English. It's just, I'm sorry. Happens in Arendal. Well, first I'd like to just say a couple of words about CCS, which is an area with very high potential for cooperation between our two countries. At least we believe so. For 28 years, we have safely and permanently stored CO2 under the seabed, paving the way for the Longship project, a project that will capture CO2 from industrial sources and transport it for safe storage. Next year, Heidelberg Materials will begin producing cement with CO2 capture as a part of Longship, and soon Yara in the Netherlands will start to transport CO2 to the Norwegian continental shelf. Longship is the world's first full-scale CCS project of its kind, and it really can really contribute to the EU climate goal. We have seen a considerable rise in the interest in acreage suitable for CO2 storage. In the last years, we have awarded 10 storage licenses. We now have 13 companies involved in this activity. German and Norwegian companies are cooperating on developing large-scale value chains for CCS. And there is a need to scale up CCS and hydrogen to decarbonize hard-to-abate industries and fulfill our commitments under the Paris Agreement. Norway has valuable know-how and technology that can help accelerate the energy transition on our collective path to reach net zero. And Germany is a key country in realizing a CCS market in Europe. We therefore welcome the recent development in the CCS area in Germany, for instance, shown through the carbon management strategy. Hydrogen is one of the other fields that we are cooperating on, as you mentioned as well. And hydrogen is one of the many tools we need for achieving carbon neutrality. And the ambition of the Norwegian government is clear. We want to contribute to the development of hydrogen as an efficient energy carrier to meet the long-term climate targets. And last year, Germany and Norway established the closer relationship on hydrogen, as mentioned earlier. In parallel, industry has explored the feasibility of hydrogen and CO2 value chain between our two countries. While this could have the potential to reduce emissions from European industry, we must also recognize that we see that a large-scale industrial project requires time to mature, and a step-by-step approach is necessary to get a success. And for us, it is important that the process is driven and backed by the industry, and that we get a real market test to find the right way forward. Another field that we have decided to cooperate on is offshore wind and renewable energy. And the ambitions for developing offshore wind in Europe are high. If we are to succeed, close cooperation is crucial. And we value the good cooperation we have with Germany and the other North Sea countries in the North Sea Energy Cooperation. Combined in the North Sea region, we aim to establish 300 gigawatt offshore wind. And Norway is committed to offshore wind development with an ambition to open for 30 gigawatt in 2040. In conclusion, it's important me to underline that Norway will remain a stable and predictable supplier of energy to Germany and Europe. Oil and gas, renewables, and other decarbonized and clean energy sources will have to coexist for some time. And safe and reliable energy is essential. Germany has a clear and ambitious energy and climate agenda. And moving forward, we will work toward accelerated deployment of renewable energy sources and clean energy technologies. And I believe that Norway's expertise in energy and offshore, coupled with the political and technological powerhouse of Germany, of Europe and Germany, has the potential to play an important role in the transition. I want to thank you for the attention, and then I just look forward to us all talking together later on.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot to you also, Astrid Bergmål, for outlining the different fields also of possible cooperation. And both of you mentioned the industry and the responsibility also of the industry and the companies. So that's the reason why I would also give the word now also to the industry. So I would like on the scene, if we have if not space, Hans-Dieter Hermes, as I mentioned, from SEFE, Trude Mooseide, Vice President Equinor, and Alexander Röske, also from IGBC. So there are some place available now in the beginning. So thanks for us. So if I can move also in the corner. So State Secretaries, you just have to hear me, not to see me. So we heard the statements from the representatives from the ministries on the future of energy and partnership between Norway and Germany. But let's talk about how it is done. What had to be done, we talked about, and the potential, but how it is done, that would be quite interesting. So perhaps let's start, if you would allow me, to the Mooseide, to start with our guest from Germany. Let's start with Mr. Hermes from SEFE.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me here, and this is a fantastic environment, and I think I brought the wrong suit for you being here, so next time come with a bathing suit. We are in a phase, and this is the view of us as an industry, as a gas midstream company working upstream, but also downstream with the customers. We see this in the market phase where we try to build up our own transition, where we have all agreed on the hydrogen strategies, tick. We have agreed that we need to combat climate change, tick. We need to transfer and transition our industry, that's also agreed. And we are all looking forward into market in the 2030s, 40s until 50 with a full liquid market, and hydrogen will play a very, very important role in that, but we are not there yet. So what we see is that we have to build the cornerstones, and by purpose I don't call them barriers, but cornerstones of this market, and that is infrastructure to begin with, and there's very good developments there. This is also cost competitiveness for the industry to help them transition. And this is also regulatory framework certification, make it easy for industry to transition into that. And that is important for us as SEFE, because SEFE stands for Securing Energy for Europe. So we have a history that we managed successfully the gas crisis. We managed to build up an LNG portfolio, so to stabilize the energy. We have a good partnership with Equinor for a good bunch of gas supply. We cover 20% of the German gas supply with 200 terawatt hours. So this is a significant market share. We operate 25% of the German storage capacities, which is also very important before every winter. And we are in the part of this core grid development KernNetz, and we are building out as operator of more than 4,000 kilometers of gas pipelines in Germany. We are building out the flow part, the flow project in the KernNetz, which is more than 1,000 kilometers, and the aqueductus connecting the wind farms with the shore. And we are also starting to convert and enlarge our storage facilities to provide the market and the industry with the necessary storage capabilities that we need in that market. So we are very active in that, but not only on the midstream, but we are going upstream and downstream. Downstream we have more than 500 large-scale customers in Germany, and they all look at us and ask, what can I do to decarbonize? And what can I do to decarbonize in 2030 when we all think the KernNetz is ready? But also what can I do now? So we are very busy with building up a portfolio of long-term supply, and that is green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, other colors like turquoise, and decentralized solutions to help the customers and the industry to start now to transition. Because we need to take them at the hand and not let them wait until all the infrastructure is ready. Because these three things are always connected: the infrastructure, the market framework, and cost competitiveness. And that is why in this phase where we are in smaller markets, when it was about a part of the renewable energy, a ramp up, etc., you would have not a closed market, but a regional area where you would have one government being responsible, where you could look at and say, can you help us to give rail guards in which way we can maneuver. But hydrogen is a global market. And everything we do in Germany has effects on projects in Norway, in the Middle East, or on the other parts of the world. And that's only for the supply, but also for the demand. Everything we do has also impact on the willingness to build up trading routes. So we as a company see that this is not a given, and we are just in this in the middle of the design of this market. And that's why we decided to be very active and close partnerships, but also work upstream and downstream in this market. And to make this happen finally, I would say we need the 3 P. We need, for the orchestration of this, we need partnerships and also G2G partnerships to help the industry to build business partnerships in this framework, which is very important for us as commercial-driven companies. But we also need performance. Getting into cost leadership for all colors of hydrogen, the main thing is that the emissions are avoided, and long term it will be renewable. We all know that, but we need to pave the way for that, and that's also what we need to work together. And we're very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Helmes. So CFA is a major player, of course, and you are looking quite intensively to Norway. Another major player, a Norwegian major player, looking intensively to Germany is Equinor. As we understood, your presence in Germany increased also, at least in the number of employees in the Berlin office, but also other places, with a lot of advertisements in Germany also. So that the same questions to you, to the Mosaida. How could it be done? How is it be done to intensify the cooperation?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to say that we're very impressed with the speed that Germany has been able to make itself energy dependent from Russia, and that we have been very proud to be part of that. And I think that is a testament to the partnership between Norway and Germany in terms of energy, and has been hugely important. And then comes, so we will be that cornerstone of energy security for Germany, but then we're also going to be the cornerstone of the decarbonization of German industry. So how do we do that? How do we come about helping Germany keep its industry, keep jobs, and keep all the wheels turning, while also providing them with the energy and the solutions that they need? So we're actually looking at quite a range of various ways of doing that. And I'm going to start with the most traditional, the number one, oil and gas. We supply a huge part of our gas to Germany, also crude. And as long as you are so dependent on the volatility of wind and solar, and we don't have the battery storages in place that we need, you will also be a major off-taker of gas and fossil fuels, actually, from Norway, even though we all do want you to decarbonize, and we are also going in that direction. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is that we're developing a portfolio of low-carbon solutions, like hydrogen, CCS. We are now getting CO2 storage in Denmark that we're developing, very close to Germany. We're also developing new projects, taking CO2 in a sort of CO2 highway, we call it, from the continent to Europe, which can also be very relevant for German industry. And then we've made a point of the fact that we do need to move to green hydrogen, but you probably need the huge amounts of blue hydrogen first in order to be able to get to the point that you get the customers, you get the infrastructure that you need, and everything that you need to put in place for that green hydrogen. That is the aim and the goal of for German climate and energy policies. And I think the pragmatism and the changes that we have seen in German policies are just very impressive, and are very important in order to put in place a trust among industries to actually invest and to take the chance on the changes that are needed for them to be able, for us to be able to build this supply chain of hydrogen going to industry. So a lot of warm words for the changes that have been made in Germany. And then I think finally, I'll just say that we need to see even more stable frameworks. We need to see collaboration between governments and industry, and without that, it will not be successful, because there are quite a lot of challenges as we go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks a lot also to you, Trude Mosaide. Yes, you mentioned the topic, the challenges. So I think we will dive in it afterwards also. There are some challenges. But you mentioned also a very important point, and that's also why Alexander Röske is here. You mentioned, for example, the securing of working places by the decarbonization, by sustaining the competitiveness of the industry, by decarbonizing. That's one of the reasons why we are also very glad to have Alexander Rössler here from IGBCE. I repeat it, you will define it much more in detail. It's a trade union for the mining, chemistry and energy in Germany. Quite impressive one. I read about 600,000 members in your organization. Please, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for being here, for the invitation. At first, I want to say that I'm very impressed about the projects, about the cooperation between the government, the companies. I know it from our companies and from our workers that there is a very strong connection and partnership over the decades, but to see it here, especially in other debates which I heard this day, it's very impressive and it's a very good feeling for the future. Yes, the IGBCE, it's an industrial trade union for mining, chemistry and energy. We have 600,000 members in especially in the energy-intensive industries. We have more branches like paper, glass, concrete, cement, ceramics, and yeah, we definitely need a lot of energy in the future, climate-neutral energy. The IGBCE is the third biggest trade union in Germany and the biggest chemistry trade union in Europe. So we are strongly connected to other unions as well, and from our members, from our workers, we hear a lot what they are thinking about their transformation, about the decarbonization, about the process, and of course they have questions. They directly before the European election, we done a survey among our members, and one question was how they see the transformation process, and the result is that they in general they support the climate goals, the decarbonization and all the topics we are speaking about, and this is very, very important. But they see also the challenges we have, because in the moment we have no really green, we have no green hydrogen, we have no really climate neutral energy like blue hydrogen or derivatives or something else. And the question is how we can do this in the next years with the goals we have until 2030 and 2045 in Germany or in 2050 in Europe. And so for that, I'm very happy to hear a lot of cooperation, because this is a main topic. We have to work together. No country can do it on its own. We have to work as Europeans, and especially the strong cooperation between Norway and Germany is a very, very good example, not only in energy supply, also in other areas, and the German-Norwegian cooperation between the governments are dealing with many other topics. And but I think we have to work on other levels as well with other stakeholders, and for that reason last year the Norwegian trade union Industry Energy and my industry trade union started with a cooperation between members, between the branches, because in our point of view the workers know a lot of the implementation of decarbonization processes, about what they need for the infrastructure, what they need for the qualification. So they really know the challenges, but they also see the perspective, and they are working for secure and safe and well-paid industry jobs in Europe, because it's a European and global project. And so I can say to the end, we have to work together, and I see very good. I see that we are on a very good way, especially these two countries. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Mr. Röske, also for touching the topic, especially on the qualified labor force for the future, topics and fields which does not exist yet, and they will have to come. And also for the importance of the acceptance, social acceptance, also among the workers and the employees. So going into a shorter period on a panel discussion, I would start with State Secretary Astrid Bergman.
Hi, I'm up here.
Yeah, you're okay. Perfect. So we touched the topic, and Trude Moser mentioned it also, that oil and gas still will be needed for some time. But let's pick with that. With Norway still being a significant exporter of natural gas to Germany, how does your ministry intend to balance this with a growing emphasis on hydrogen in the future? And as Mr. Maasmes and Mr. Hermes from CEFA also touched that a little bit. So how do you balance it in the ministry, the balance between gas and hydrogen in the future?
Well, I think there, as I said earlier as well, for a very long time we're going to need both oil and gas, and also renewable energy and other sources like carriers like hydrogen. And I think we see. I think we just have to acknowledge that for quite some time we're going to need oil and gas is going to be like play the biggest part there, or have the biggest volumes. And I saw that, if I remember correctly, I have to say if I say something wrong now, but last year Equinor and CEFA had made an agreement, a 10-year agreement? 10-year plus 5, was it like that? Yeah, on oil and gas, which is like one of the biggest agreements being done with oil and gas from Norway since 1986 or something like that. I mean, it's a huge and important agreement, and that also shows that I believe that Germany is going to need oil and gas in the future. But then, in parallel, of course, we also have to work on these other sources for energy, because we need these transitions and we need to meet the climate crisis. So that is what we're working on, and that is why we make the strategic partnership with Germany last year on these 7 fields, which hydrogen has played a very important role, especially last year. We've been working very, very good and closely, and but also that focuses on other fields like CCS, offshore wind. And offshore wind, for example, is something that we definitely going to need if this hydrogen that we talk about now, which in reality is blue in the beginning, is going to turn into green in the future. And if Norway ever is going to be able to export that, we're going to need a lot more power. And in that sense also, in many senses, we're also going to need power for Norway. But everything we do on offshore wind is very, very important, both for Norway, but I believe also in the long term for it's also important for Europe and Germany, because we have to somewhere there, I'm not going to mention a year, but also succeed on first blue, but then also green hydrogen in Europe.
Mm. Yes, thanks for outlining this, and you mentioned it also, and I think Mr. Maas knows it very well, so I will ask him about the challenges in Germany also in the future. Perhaps the challenges we have here in Norway also, and this is quite interesting because we quite often have the impression that it's important also to stress that Norway also has to build out its capacities to produce power. It's sometimes in the rest of Europe not always known. Mr. Maas knows it, of course, but we get a lot of visits who think there is a big surplus of energy here in Norway, a renewable surplus, but never-ending surplus, and then they have to come back to reality when they go back. So Mr. Maas knows this very well, of course, and that would also be a question also to Mr. Maas now. You set very ambitious targets to the climate neutral by 2045 in Germany. But what are the most significant challenges currently facing in your country, in Germany, in achieving these goals?
Well, we've been depending on, in many use cases, on oil and gas. So starting from the traffic sector, the car industry has been relying on building very good combustion engines. They have understood that this is coming to an end. So that is the European decision to have an end of combustion engines by 2035. So can make a check there, I think. Much harder is the heating sector. We have experienced that last year with a rough political storm. We have decided basically to phase out the main sources of our heating. We've made wrong decisions in the last decades. We are largely depending on natural gas for our heating. We have too few heat pumps. We have too little district heating. So, and the second biggest source is oil for heating. So, phasing out these fossil fuels in the next years is a tough challenge. But we have passed a law. Maybe even here in Norway, some have noticed it because it was the #1 headline, political headline in Germany, to get that legislation through, that every new heating unit in Germany from now on has to have 65% renewables, which means basically a heat pump, with some loopholes that have been built in the legislative process. But the bottom line is we can also make a check there behind this task. So that is alone 500 terawatt hours of our heating of the natural gas. So we see that we will no longer need oil for the transport sectors, no longer need oil and gas for the heating sectors. And then the hard part is the industry part. And that's why we put such a strong focus on the hydrogen part of our energy partnership, because that is what makes our relationship so unique. I mean, there are many other energy partnerships. Germany has 30 or so around the world. And of course, many of the topics are in many of the partnerships. You can work with many other countries on batteries, on offshore wind, which is all very good, that because we all learn from each other and we can all exchange technologies and get better. But the one thing we are relying on is large volumes of green or low carbon hydrogen. And Norway is the only place around that can deliver via pipeline. And so that is why it's so crucial, and we need it at a low price. And also that's what Norway can deliver. Even though it's a global market, as Mr. Hemmers pointed out, we are so depending on getting this job done together. And but you were asking about the challenges. I think I've said a few things on it. And the hydrogen part, maybe I can also bring some figures along. We've just given 23 funding, checks basically, for hydrogen, 1.4 gigawatt for electrolyzers in Germany, 370 gigawatts of storage capacity that we are building in Germany, 2,000 kilometers of the hydrogen pipeline that I mentioned, of these 10,000 kilometers that are going to be built. We just had the second round of auctions for the carbon contracts for difference. The majority of the contracts are for hydrogen projects. We did not know that before. We thought there would be more on electrification, but a lot is going to hydrogen. We are in the middle of passing a law on to speed up the permitting processes for hydrogen projects, as well the infrastructure, but also electrolyzers. And so there are quite a few more things in the pipeline to speed up things for hydrogen as well.
Thanks for now it works. Thanks for outlining this. I would continue with the representatives from the industry, and you heard what the challenges are, and you heard what in Germany and in Norway is done. Is that enough, or do the governments, the German and Norwegian governments, want to do some more to enhance or to facilitate the development of a comprehensive market, especially for hydrogen? Perhaps, Trude.
I think one main point is that you cannot underestimate the importance of the EU, and I think it's great that Germany, as one of the main countries within the EU, to use its strength to be able to ensure a practical, pragmatic, fast-moving approach to the hydrogen framework that's being developed in the EU, so that we don't get sort of, you can get a situation where the targets or the regulations are too specific, so that they hinder the evolution of a fast market. So it's important for us to have Germany and other EU member countries on board, because a lot of these regulations are being set in Brussels instead of necessarily only in Berlin. And then one more thing to add. I also think it's fantastic to see that pragmatism that Germany is showing, where CCS is now actually being considered as an opportunity also in Germany, which was totally off the table just a short while ago. And I think for companies like us, it makes Germany an even more attractive market for investment. So keep up that tempo of innovation and renewal of policies. Thanks.
Thanks also for coming back to the European framework, regulatory framework, of course, very important, that both of us have to deal with. But also to Mr. Hammes, what would you like the governments to be done in addition to that?
Clarity is king, I would say. This because if we look at industry, and Mr. Maaßen, you mentioned that for some sectors, industry sectors, it's easier to convert them with regulation, but the industry, we need to take them at hand, because if you imagine complicated industrial processes, they cannot be switched on a certain day from gas to hydrogen. It's not happening in one day. So what we need is this transition, and we need the gas for longer to keep the things moving, and then a small portion in hydrogen that we ramp up, that we try with our partnerships here. And then have this transition period, and we need both fuels for a while to help them to transition into a greener economy. And what I can say is that at least our customers, they're willing, they want to decarbonize sooner than later. They just need help, and that is simplicity, so pragmatism. We heard that several times. That was the third P that I forgot before that you mentioned. Thank you. And it, in the first instance, it doesn't count which color a hydrogen molecule has. They just want low carbon hydrogen, and they want to reduce their emissions. We all know long term it will be renewable, but on the way there we need to work also with our gas that we have. And gas means you can convert it into blue hydrogen, you can convert it into turquoise hydrogen, decentralized solutions. So we are trying to find a pathway through that transition. And what we expect from the partnership is that industry partners, we are all commercially driven, Equinor and SEFE, and we do our utmost to build up this relationship and also this business. And then there's a point where we need the G2G partnership to help it, to frame it, to give us the security to take FIDs and all these final investment decisions for large infrastructure projects. So we need to go hand in hand with politics in this phase until this is a real market.
And we should remind that the agreement between SEFE and Equinor also includes the hydrogen element as a letter of intent on it. So it's not only about gas, it's also a hydrogen agreement.
I was referring to the hydrogen part, of course.
Yes, both. And simplicity, clarity, and of course bankability, I would also add to that. So perhaps a short question before I give to the closing remarks, because there will be some arrangements also afterwards. To Mr. Röske, to what extent is the labor market prepared for the shifts? You touched this topic. But I would address to you, how should organizations such as IGBCE cooperate with industrial representatives to reach this goal, to reach the green transition in the future?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We have to reach the goal is to, I think it's trust between all partners. We have to speak with each other. Otherwise, it's not possible to reach the goals, to implement all the infrastructure, to deliver the needs with hydrogen and the derivatives. So, and I think we need a story for maybe a better story for the future to implement a perspective for the workers, for the societies that we will reach. We know we reach our goals, but maybe we have to say it a bit more often. And but I think we have a lot of very good examples, and yeah, I think this is what we can do with some soft skills.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for this input. So I would like to ask Hildegunn Blindheim and Frode Alfamir. Thanks for our panelists, but perhaps stay here because we are running out of time, so we will lose time by clapping too much. But we still have 4 to 5 minutes. Hildegunn and Frode, some closing remarks from your side, so we can do the clapping afterwards. Hildegunn, perhaps you're starting with some closing remarks.
No, I think what we've been discussing today, one thing is oil and gas. Our businesses and our companies will do our best to find the best oil and gas that we can produce. But of course, these challenges with CCS and hydrogen, we know we all need them. We need infrastructure. And the cooperation between our two countries are essential if we're going to be able to do that. This will not come by itself. We need frameworks. We need incentives. No company can lift it alone. So yes, to continue the hard work, it's not going to be easy, but we have to make it work.
Thanks. And Frode, from your side?
Very short. Alexander from IGBC mentioned that we have signed a cooperation agreement. So we follow the cooperation that the German and the Norwegian governments have established, and where I would like to say that I worked rapid on the energy and industry area, and we have to follow up on the union side. So I think from both parts, we are kind of part of Team Norway, part of Team Germany. But we have also opened an European office together in Brussels, so we will definitely be a part of Team Europe, because we need to deliver energy to not only Germany but to Europe. We need to have a market that is functioning, so that Germany will still buy also materials from our process industry onshore, for example, aluminium to your car factoring, and we need workers and consumers in Europe who are able to buy those German cars. So this is running. So we need a good running Europe. And in many ways it starts with the energy from Norway. So we are part of Team Norway, Germany and Team Europe.
Thanks for that. And thanks also to all our panelists. So we have to time schedule. Coming from Germany, come from Norway. Thanks to KonKraft for organizing Offshore Norway. Thanks a lot for that. We appreciate that. And tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock there will be a European topic on decarbonization. Keep tuned. Thanks for coming. Tusen takk skal dere ha.